Yeah, I believe in you. I don't believe in lucky sevens. I'm not sure about Loch Ness, but I know I believe in angels. I believe in happiness.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's wonderful to see you. And I am turning my volume down just a little bit. So I hope that it's not too loud for you, but here we go. Let's settle into another fantastic show. I have a really spectacular lady connected with us, and we're going to get to her in just a moment. Her name is Jen Cross, and she brings a ton of information and a ton of just really great nuggets that you know. And I'm like, my mind is racing because I'm trying to get to my end point of saying, man, she has a podcast that I clicked on. I was taking a little, gander at it while I was doing some research, and she has a couple of topics on there that will blow your mind. So we're going to talk about that. But first up, let's talk about our sponsor. So the sponsor of the afternoon is Red Bars. And Red Bars are, they're really cool. You know what? I actually went onto their website recently because I'm always doing research. A lot of things sometimes with the sponsors, if they make little updates like 15% off if you sign up for your first order, or, New Year's special or something like that. Sometimes I don't want to miss that. So I'm always going to the website, see if they've made any updates or anything like that. And I am actually going to bring their website into the spotlight right now because I want to get our eyes on it. So their formula for these Red Bars is really quite spectacular. And when I was interviewing one of the founders of the company, he was explaining to us that, here it is. So he was explaining to us that this is full nutrition in a bar. Like, don't think of it as a replacement for a meal. This is truly designed for triathletes, long distance runners, long distance cyclists, but it's applicable in everybody's diet. And so this is the information I found really interesting on their website. And this is their website up there. It is reddbar.com. I'm going to bring that up to the broadcast too, so that you can write that down and go take a look after the broadcast. Don't leave us. Please don't leave us. So just write it down. But it's reddbar.com. So within the formula, and I've got to call them and ask them if this is new, because I knew that they had some really spectacular things within these bars, but they have adaptogenetic mushrooms within the formula, which I thought was really cool. And I'm like, ooh, that sounds fancy, but what the heck is it? So these mushrooms, they help reduce the effects of stress on your body by their natural properties of how we digest them. And they're not the hallucinogenic mushrooms, of course. So I just want to put that out there because not everybody may know what adaptogenetic mushrooms are, such as I didn't. But as you can see in these bars, and this is why I love bringing up the website, because they always have the very best in pictures of their product. You see the food in those. And that's exactly what they are. I love eating them. And I'm like, ooh, I've got like a nut or a seed or something like that. Like I'm crunching on it, and it's great. So anyway, they're gluten, soy, dairy, GMO free, 10 grams of protein per bar, and only 2 to 5, depending on the flavor, 2 to 5 grams of sugar. Pre-probiotics. They've got the adaptogenic mushrooms in there, so it's going to help you to be able to recover, because we can't always be in a fight or flight response, right? It comes in chocolate, oatmeal, peanut butter, mint chocolate, salted caramel, and they are actually working on another flavor from what I hear. You can get these currently at Publix, and if you're in the southeast of the United States, we have the Publix grocery stores, Amazon, or go to Red Bar today for 15% off of your first order. So thank you so much, Red Bar, for being a dedicated sponsor of the show. I certainly enjoy them. No joke, not just talk here. Here's my Red Bar that I was chewing on this morning. So it is something I truly use. All right, now let's talk about Miss Jen Cross. She is an author and a podcast host of A Wild and Precious Life. Her podcast explores ways people can live better, more authentic lives and features guests from healthcare professionals and wellness practitioners to authors, movie producers, and more. She uses her writing in trauma recovery and wellness to help others learn about themselves. Additionally, she is the author of the middle grade reader Stella Daniels is her book, and The Guardians of Light, currently being published in audio form as a serial podcast with a hard copy expected by Christmas of 2022. Stella Daniels is a story of resilience, courage, and hope for young readers and listeners. Now, she also has a company that she founded in 2010 called Jen Cross Creative. We're going to talk about that because this side of her is marketing related. So when social media, SEO, blogging were relatively new to the market, as the agency has grown, she's continued to see significant gaps in marketing strategy, even at the largest companies. And that's where she comes to the rescue. And without any further ado, I'd love to bring to the broadcast Miss Jen Cross. How are you?
I am great. Elizabeth, thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm so excited to talk to you about all things creative, from marketing to writing to podcasting.
You're very welcome. I love your accent. Where are you from?
I'm from Dallas, Texas.
Oh my goodness, I love it. All right, so Jen, take us back to just before 2010. What was going on in your life? When did you realize, you know what, I can really get in here and make a huge amount of positive impact on so many companies that are coming into the light?
Well, in 2010, I was actually going through divorce, and I had not worked at all my adult life beyond raising 3 little boys and doing charity work. And so I did a lot of, I guess, free marketing for philanthropies and for different charities, the school, the PTA board, all of that. But I hadn't really used that skill so much, but I had done a lot of writing and taking a lot of writing courses through the now defunct SMU Creative Writing Program. So as I was getting divorced, I knew that I would need to get a job. And at the time, I really did not want to go back to teaching. I had taught for a year before I was married. And so I was looking around and noticing that there were so many small businesses that could benefit from a blog, an SEO-powered blog. And one thing that I did really well, and one of my natural talents, is writing. So I began looking for these businesses. And backtrack, I did send out some resumes, but no one wanted to hire someone whose biggest achievement was like 5 years on the PTA board. Like, no one would hire me. I mean, it was like I couldn't find a job. Now, I could have gone back to teaching. I knew I would get a job there, but I just did not see that would be my future. So I began Jen Cross Creative, and it really started out to me blogging for, even relatives. I wasn't really doing like a real big thing with it. As I grew the agency, I had other jobs along the way. I did sales, I did software sales. I started getting into that. And the nice thing about that was that it allowed me to really kind of grow this organically, the agency. And all of the training I got with sales, the formalized sales training, really helped me when it came to the copywriting side and the marketing side. So it really, every little step I took gave me more and more of that experience that I needed. And since then, I've worked with some really big companies, some Fortune 500 companies. I've helped them with everything from websites, email funnels, to social media campaigns. But I still also work with individuals. I have a couple of self-published authors. I've been working with them on their websites, helping them improve them. And it really just makes me happy to help people.
I love to hear your story because, and this is something that I've also personally gone through. So this is just my opinion, right? That's where I'm coming from with this. This is just my opinion, but it is quite daunting to come out of the corporate world, to stay home and raise children, which I've done. I've done it twice. So I really value that ability and privilege to be able to do so. But on the backside of it, you lose your marketability. And just like you said, your resume of all this wonderful work that you've done in corporate or for other businesses, and you build your resume, you take 5 years off, you take 10 years off. And it's like, honey, we don't care that you ran the social committee and the PTA. Like, no. So
it's like they don't get it. Like I was like, I'm in the Junior League of Dallas. Do you understand what it means to be on the development committee?
right.
I was calling T. Boone Pickens and asking him for money. If I can do that, I can sell your software. I'm not afraid to ask for money. But they didn't see it that way.
Right. Right. You know what? And I've wound up doing the same thing that you're telling me that you've done, is that you realize that your marketability was nil. So you built your own. Same thing with me. My marketability was absolutely nothing. So I've had to build my own. Do you have a lot of women that ask your opinion that are in a similar situation, or maybe they're not going through a divorce like you and I have? And they're just like, you know what, the kids are growing. They're in school. I got to get back into this, but how do I market my skills?
Well, I don't know if I have a lot of women that ask my particular advice on that, but I do have women in my life that actually, they specialize in coaching women in this sort of skill set and what to do next. And I've been fortunate to even have one on my podcast who was really able to discuss how, she got to that point where she was in a situation where she was a high school principal, and then she decided to retire, but then she's like, now what? My kids are grown. And so she started, looking for her own like path. Mm-hmm. And from that, she developed a coaching business, and now she coaches and teaches classes and helps women who are in this sort of like age of life where kids are all leaving, which I'm definitely in that now. And I know you are too. It's like, they're all leaving the nest, and you're like, okay, if you haven't really built anything for yourself, or you don't have like a really strong kind of outside community of your own interests, she always says it has to be by you, for you, because of you, then you can really kind of falter, whether you're trying to go back to work, or heck, you're just trying to find someone that, to have a conversation with on the weekends because your teenagers are gone, and you might not have a partner around, or your partner is busy or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right. Now I want to ask a question that may seem a little silly, but SEO. Okay. This is an acronym that everybody's heard. SEO. It's so important. SEO. You got to have SEO. With business owners, we get inundated with emails. We're SEO experts. You really need to improve your availability and site online, Google ability, if you will. So can you give us the most simple explanation of what is SEO and why do we want it?
It's BS.
Well, there you have it, folks. Thanks for watching.
So here's the deal with SEO. SEO done well is fantastic. There are a lot of things you can do. And I would be lying if I said I don't sometimes use the SEO headline analyzer when I'm looking at how I'm going to title a blog post, or how I'm going to work on an article. There are a lot of different things you can look for to do. The problem with SEO is that it has changed and evolved so much through the years. When I first started blogging for SEO, it was all it was about was, we've got to use all these Google keywords. Well, why are there keywords? Because Google's decided, okay, there's Google Analytics. They can give you words that would be ideal to use in whatever it is you're writing, from your website to the emails to whatever you're putting on the web, like a blog post. However, what it comes back to is it comes back to your story and your brand. It is not worthwhile to write a blog post that is just peppered with a bunch of keywords that do nothing to elevate or promote what it is you're actually trying to sell, or what you're actually trying to get someone to feel. So when people talk about SEO, or sometimes even when I have a potential client, they're like, well, I just really need a really heavy SEO thing. I immediately know they don't know what they're talking about, because what they need is they need their customers to feel valued, appreciated, and have a desire to want to work with them. Whether, yes, you want to be found on Google, but there are a lot of different ways to be found on Google without just putting just a ton of SEO in the front end. Doing consistent blog posts. That's a great way to raise your search level on Google. Doing things that on your website that create value that people are going to search for and find is absolutely important. But they've gotten really smart, the search engines have, and they'll actually ding you if they feel like you have a bunch of copy that is just too keyword heavy. They know what you're doing, and they know that it's not. So I always say that, there's a place for SEO, then there's a place for paid advertising, and they have to go together. You're not going to build your business on the most SEO heavy website in the world. You're going to have to do some paid. You're going to have to do some paid social. You're going to have to do some organic social. Honestly, social media is where a lot of companies really need to be putting their focus, much more so than how heavy can we just drench ourselves in SEO.
Sure.
So I'm not going to say that's not important, but I do think that it's just so overemphasized because everyone is doing it. You're fighting a bunch of noise.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is that how are you going to rise out above that noise? It's from your brand story and how you're able to help your clients.
I love that. So on your website, jencrosscreative.co, that's C-O. So jencrosscreative.co.
Yeah.
I actually have it pulled up into the broadcast. I'm going to bring it into the stream because I want to take a look at something here. You have a couple of percentages listed on your homepage, and
Yes.
I'm going to read off a few of them. I think this is so absolutely powerful. And then I want to ask you, how do you hold hands with all the different needs that you were just mentioning? So you need a little bit of SEO, you need some social media marketing, some brand awareness, things like that. So 63% of businesses do not have a documented content strategy despite content marketing being the driving force in online presence. 71% of consumers, 71% of consumers who have a positive social media experience with a brand are more likely to recommend the brand to others. 62% of businesses outsource their content marketing and still increase their ROI, return on investment. 80% of companies note an increase in leads after implementing automated marketing practices. Oh my goodness, those are huge numbers.
I know, that's why I cherry picked them from I forget what the source was, but it was reputable. It was a reputable source.
Sure, right.
Long list of marketing, marketing statistics that are very recent. They're from 2022, but those were the ones that really stood out to me the most based on how I try to help my clients. So, I built the website, so I'm obviously going to use the statistics that I like the best. But yeah, there's a lot more to it than just one, like you said, one little thing. There are a lot of things that have to integrate.
And it's so daunting because I'm reading on your website here. So you have a couple of testimonial quotes on here. And this one from Natalie, and she's saying, I have partnered with Jen and her agency in countless projects from websites, email marketing, and social media. Jen is extremely efficient and easy to work with, not to mention fun. I always enjoy our meetings and her unique insights on projects. I look forward to years more of collaboration. So I want to go back to that first sentence. And in today's world of owning an online business, oh my gosh, the email marketing, the presence on social media, the making sure that you're found on Google, like that's more hours than I have in the day. So is it very expensive to be able to hire a service such as your service to be able to do that for our company?
No, I don't think that it's very expensive. I think that when you look at what you can get out of it, because it does free up your time, which is your most valuable resource. I think that it definitely does pay for itself when it comes to time. I will tell you that as a marketing agency, we don't attempt to guarantee results because it's a long game. Marketing is a long game.
Right.
And we don't guarantee results because you can't. You can't control outside consumer behavior. You just can't. Now, you can make some predictions. You can make some good advice. You can try things. But at the end of the day, sometimes you have to test something and then you have to go back and you've got to test it another way. You've got to see what hits what. Sure. So any marketing company that tells you, oh, well, we can fix this for you, run because they can't, we don't know what the problem really is until we get in and we really look deeply at what the possible solutions are. And sometimes we have to try a couple of solutions before we go, oh, that's why your emails aren't being opened. This is how we're going to change that. So no, I feel like, we're very strategically priced in what we do. And we always are very careful to really try to understand the project for our clients before we accept something. We also make sure that we have bandwidth because we want to do a very good job for our clients. I've turned down RFPs that have been 5 figures before because I knew I didn't have the bandwidth given my other things that I have going on. So it's really important that you find a good fit with someone who's going to be able to give you the time and that you're happy with what they're able to provide you with.
Absolutely. And we're complimenting our points here because it does take a lot of bandwidth. It takes a good deal of work to be able to do brand marketing, which I think is just all inclusive. It's your email, it's your social media, it's Google, it's everything. So if I was a business owner that I was interested, do I schedule a discovery call with you, and how does that go?
Yeah, you would schedule a discovery call with me, and we would do an intake. I'd find out what it is was keeping you up at night. What were the issues that made you want to reach out? What do you think you need? I think that's very revealing. It may not be what I suggest, but I want to know what you think you need. And from there, we might even brainstorm a little bit on what that looks like. Another thing that we'll discuss is, what is your budget? I want to know up front, what do you have to spend? Because I can craft a solution around any budget. I built a landing page for someone for less than $1,000, and it was a very limited landing page. But I also have built a landing page that was $3,000. It had a lot more on it. And it was also a different type of client, and it was a higher stakes situation than the other one. So it really just kind of depends. And it doesn't mean that if you tell me, oh, my budget is $3,000, I'm going to go, okay, let's figure out how to spend all of that. What we're going to do is we're going to prioritize because I want it to be a sustainable solution for you. So if I can do it for less, that's fine. And you don't even have to give me an exact number. You can give me a range. But there's no point in us having further conversations if what you're asking for is well beyond what you can afford. Now, I'm happy to give you solutions that are less than, like, hey, I know you think that you want like 4 email campaigns of 5 emails each. Let's start with 1 email campaign of 3 emails, and let's see how that goes, and then let's build on that. I work with a client right now, and she's a self-published author, coach, speaker. She's really trying to do a lot. I've actually helped her expand even from a business perspective. She was like, when we first talked, she's like, I really just want to promote my book and my coaching thing and everything, and my speaking thing. And she's just her podcast is coming out. I interviewed her for a podcast and accidentally started doing her website. It was not on purpose, but I'm actually dropping her podcast this weekend. And she's a certified high conflict divorce coach. So she works with it. And so then I was like, why aren't you targeting law firms? And she's like, well, I had this one law firm. I'm like, that's what you should be doing. Have the law firms pay you to coach their clients. And she's like, oh my gosh. So I've like totally changed some of her business plan. But I'm helping her create that website, but we've been doing it in stages. Yeah. And when she's ready, we're going to add on me helping her with her emails. And so, because when we first initially talked, I was like, listen, I really wasn't trying to get business from you, but I want to help you. But I want to do it in a way that doesn't overwhelm you, because you're an individual solopreneur who's really just kind of starting out with this. So I want to make sure that it's amenable and it can scale with you as you grow. And it's been a great relationship because she really feels like I'm doing great work for her, but she also doesn't ever feel like she can't afford it.
I really appreciate what you had to say there, because when you look at your website, as we just were, it's, it's everything. And I think with a lot of people in today's world is so busy and it's so hot and heavy and it comes at you so fast that I can only imagine a lot of people that are getting started. They're like, well, we need it all. We need the website. We need the email campaigns. We need the social media. We need it all. We need the content creation. And you do all of that.
So let me tell you a little story about myself. I started leaning really hard into my agency in the past year. I've had other jobs. In fact, I just accepted a really nice plum position that I'm really excited about. But I've always had other jobs, and I do my agency just sort of like I work on the weekends. Like I said, I protect my bandwidth. I also have partners that I work with that I'll push work to, a graphic designer, a web guy. I have other people that help me when it comes to the agency. When I started to lean really hard on freelance, though, and really do the agency full time, I was also working on my writing. And at first I was on a site called Medium, and I was writing a lot of articles there that are still there. I'm going to be moving those all over to my website. And then I was interviewed for a podcast, and I was told, oh, you should have a podcast. Well, that just was an amazing, amazing suggestion. I absolutely love my podcast. However, I let myself, it's like, they talk about physician, heal yourself. Mm-hmm. Marketing, heal yourself. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. I went crazy trying to schedule a million things on social media, Instagram, Facebook. Oh, I have this old Twitter account. I'm going to start doing Twitter now. Oh, TikTok. Oh, I can do that. Oh, Instagram. They say you need to do reels. Let me spend 25 minutes trying to do a stupid. I'm like, I got to the point where I just had to like stop everything and reevaluate and be like, okay, what am I doing? Thank God I don't have an email list. And really had to go back to like, okay, I am going to do the essential, which is get the podcast episodes out, write the articles that I like, promote them on Instagram that automatically pushes to Facebook. I'm going to chill out on Twitter. I never liked Twitter. I don't know why I'm trying to do Twitter anyway. I don't care about TikTok. I just don't have the bandwidth to do all of that. I'm just at the point where I was like, do I need to hire an assistant for my passion project? I don't have any sponsors. Like, I'm like, come on. Like, what am I doing? Like, right. it just got to be where I was trying to do too much. And so instead of letting it grow organically, and it's so funny because I work with clients all the time. I'm like, you need to let some things grow organically. It's okay to pay for ads and everything, but first, why don't you get some good stuff going on your feed? Have enough on your grid so that when you pay for an ad and people go, it looks like you actually have something to talk about. Let's not just do it all at once. So it's not just people that are not marketing. Marketing people struggle with it too, particularly with promoting our own brand.
Yeah, it's, at the end of the day, you look at it and say, well, but if I could do it all, it's like you're chasing that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And right. the pot of gold may or may not be there. I mean, it's all.
Honestly, I had zero intention of monetizing my my podcast at all. If I happen to get a sponsor, that'd be great. But I have no intention. But I'm like I'm marketing it like it's going to be my retirement plan,
Right. Well, let's talk about your podcast for just a minute. So it's called
Sure.
A Wild and Precious Life. And you have, it really struck me because you had a recent show and it is entitled People Pleasing is Just Your Trauma Throwing a Tantrum. Yes. That is hard to swallow. What did you discover within that particular episode?
So how my podcast is structured is that almost every episode, I can't say every episode because I have 2 episodes coming out in the next few days. One will come out on Thursday, and it's actually me interviewing a Ukrainian refugee who's in Italy right now, who has helped hundreds of other women through her own personal network. It's amazing. But the majority of my episodes, they start out with, it's an article that I have written and published about certain topics. So I wrote something about people pleasing and why we do it and how we should stop. Like you have to stop because you're really trying to feed things that are in yourself. You're saying yes to other people and you're saying no to yourself. And with that episode, I brought on a guest, and the guest, it was a licensed therapist. And we discussed how when people put so much of their self-worth in other people's happiness, they really cheat themselves out of what their happiness is and what they need.
Yeah, I caught that moment in the podcast where you said, well, and I'm paraphrasing, but essentially saying, it's supposed to be reciprocal. It's supposed to be, you put all this good out there, you're supposed to get it all back. It doesn't work that way.
No, it has to start with yourself. You have to really be sure that you're feeding yourself and giving yourself what you need before you can give to others.
Oh, so eloquently said. Absolutely, 100%. What do you have coming in the future before we start talking about your books? Because I do want to get to Stella Daniels and the Guardians of Light. But to continue talking about your podcast, where can we hear it?
Okay, so it's on Apple, it's on Amazon, it's on iHeartRadio, it's on Stitcher. You can stream it straight from my website. All the episodes go right there. So I believe it's on Pandora. They were really slow about getting it going, but I think it's on there now. So those are some places that you can listen to it. Like I said, I have an upcoming episode is about co-parenting with a narcissist. And then I have my next episode after that. That'll drop this weekend or Monday. And then the next episode will drop Thursday for sure. And it's my interview with the woman from Ukraine that had to flee to Italy, went to stay with some friends in Italy, and it's an amazing story.
That has to be a very fresh story. When did she get to Italy? When did she make it to Italy?
Okay, so listen to this. We're talking like 16 days ago. And in this 16 days, she has grown a group and a network of over 100 women that she is helping with job opportunities, housing. Oh, this is not her job. This is not what she was doing. She was like a speaker or a customer relations person. She'd go and give speeches at auto dealerships. In fact, she was on her way the day the war started. She was on a business trip. She heard the war planes, and they're so desensitized in Ukraine. They had dealt with this abusive situation from Russia for so long.
Yeah.
She got up and just started putting on her makeup to go to the meeting. She was like, yeah, I heard a couple of bombs, but and she called and they were like, no, the war has started. Like, all bets are off. And so she and her husband were able to get out and get to Italy. But then she had all these friends that also, they were scattered all over Europe that had also gotten out, and they've called her, she was paying for some people's hotel rooms. She was, this one woman was like, hey, so I just had my third baby a couple of days ago, but I could probably start working someplace in a couple of days if you could find me a remote job. Like, these people are not, like, they are like
the real
really
deal.
Resilient. Yeah, they really are. So she's amazing. So I'm going to have her on, and there are going to be ways people can, this is another thing. She does not want people to give money. She wants people to help with finding job opportunities and housing. If people want to give money, they have to give it in a way where they register for one of her webinars. They don't have to go to it, but she's created all these webinars about all of her expertise when it comes to customer service and sales. And she's like, I want to give them something back in return, whether they watch it or not, I don't care. And then people can choose. I want to pay $70 for this. I want to pay $10 for this. And so, but she said, I just could not take straight donations. It did not feel right to me. It was just not, she said, I could not ask that of people without giving them something of value in return. So just a really woman of just great integrity.
Wow.
So I'm really excited. I interviewed her this morning at 6 a.m. my time, because Italy is 6 hours ahead. So.
And when will that be available for listen?
Thursday.
Okay. I'm going to
and if you guys follow me, like if they follow me on Instagram, then that's where a lot of times I'll put links in the stories to the podcast. And I also promote and talk a lot about the guests and stuff on that.
And what is the name of that particular podcast?
That's
The
name of
episode. I'm sorry. Yes, the episode.
I haven't even named it yet.
Oh. Okay. So we'll watch your website definitely on Thursday.
I would say a conversation with a Ukrainian refugee or something like that. But don't hold me back.
Okay. I want to type that in. That is an amazing story. We have not had the need to live like that here in the United States. And it is so unfamiliar to us that, I've heard stories from my grandmother, but, not necessarily about the Russians or the Ukrainians or, what the SSR was when I was growing up and stuff like that. But we've just always known they're tough people. Yeah, they're really tough people.
They're going through a lot right now. And the thing is that they were very cosmopolitan. Ukraine was very similar to a lot of cities. There were other cities were a lot like our cities, like a lot of our urban cities. And grocery stores had shut down. Russia bombed their largest chicken storage facility. Trucks are coming in. People are standing in line for food. That is not normal for Ukraine.
Yeah.
At all. And so it has been really hard for them. Definitely. So I was really honored that I was able to connect with her and have her on my podcast. That's why I did the podcast. It was to inspire people. And, I never expected some of the guests that I've not expected to have them. And so it's been a real honor. It's definitely changed quite a bit in the past 6 months. And I think it'll continue to evolve into good things.
How did you find her?
Through a Facebook group.
Wow.
I think it was the same one that you and I are in.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'll send you your information. I'm sure you'd love to interview her for the show. But yeah, I mean, it was just like through that. She said, hey, I'm from Ukraine. I used to be this, like, I had my own company and I was doing all this stuff for these clients. She's like, now I'm helping people find a place to sleep. She's like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm doing it because I have to. These are my people. And she was really worried about, because there's a lot of women, apparently there's stories about women that have fled to Germany and then they disappeared. Mm-hmm. And so she's very concerned that these women, she said, I help a lot of women that are like single and maybe they don't have a husband, their husband's stuck back in the Ukraine and they're not protected. And I want them to be safe.
Oh my goodness. I mean, that's one woman doing God's work. I mean, Godspeed to her. That's really amazing. And yes, I'd love to have her contact information and talk about marketing. Like she got to it. She
has definitely stuff for you to talk about for sure.
Yeah. That's fantastic that she thought of, getting into those Facebook groups and stuff to try to find a platform, find anywhere that would take her voice. And that's absolutely astounding. All right. So now let's talk about your books. You have Stella Daniels, and Stella Daniels, it says here in my notes, is a story of resilience, courage, and hope for young readers and listeners. Can you take us back to the creation of Stella Daniels, and when did you start writing it?
Okay, so that's an interesting story. So I actually have 2 books.
Okay.
I published a book in 2017 called The Dallas Divorcee. Not for children. It's a novel, very fun novel. It was sort of like the final piece from my SMU writing days. I worked on that with a published author, Dan Hale, and we did a lot of work on that together. And then I was out of SMU writing, and then I was just doing it on my own. And along the same time, I was working on another book, and it was called Caleb Daniels. Obviously, I like the last name Daniels because there's a reason for that. And the Guardians of Truth. And it was about a boy, and it was kind of a cool, kind of a fantasy story like this. A lot of the elements are very similar. And this past, couple of years have been so hard. And I was working on a second novel. My second novel was kind of along the lines of The Dallas Divorcee. It was very edgy, very dark, and I hated all my characters. Oh, they were horrible people. I really couldn't find a hero. I was like, all these people are awful. And so I I got it in my head. I was like, I'd really like to go back and explore this old book. And I decided it just felt right to make it a girl protagonist. I'd say that like people that like something like Harry Potter or something, they would like this book. It's not really magic, it's more fantasy. I mean, it's fantasy, but there's some magical elements to it, whimsical elements to it. But the whole premise of the book is that there's a young girl and she's had some significant challenges in her life, and she gets put into a situation with her best friend who she's had a falling out with, but now they're back together. And her younger brother is there too. And she has to really dig deep inside of herself to figure out what the right thing is to do and really find that light in herself. And so she's been through some dark times. She's in a place that has going through a pandemic. It's not a COVID pandemic, but it's a pandemic of darkness. And she is going to find out that she is very, very connected to this place in a way that she's not going to expect. So I've been working on it. I actually had, I've dropped several chapters of it already. I was at the point of chapter 5, and we had some things going on in our lives, and I needed to take a break for a few weeks. So I'm excited to get back to it and record some more, because I was about to record chapter 5, and I just needed to take a break from everything and kind of reassess. So the week after spring break, I'll be dropping, which it's spring break for our town right now. I'll be dropping chapters 5 and 6 together, and then moving on. The podcast will be around 20, I think it's 20, I can't remember, 28 chapters, I think. So, and then once the podcast is all out, there will be a book too. So there is a book, but I'm just reading it aloud first. And the reason I'm reading it aloud is that I feel like all kids deserve to have access to free literature. That's good. Every podcast episode includes questions, because I used my background in teaching English and reading to develop thoughtful questions for the kids to think about and talk about, either with their adults that they're listening with, or with their friends that they're listening with. And and the book will contain this too. So that's kind of where I am with that.
I love that. So I pulled up the availability of the audio chapters on Amazon, and I see here that the character is a first grader, which I love.
No.
No? Oh, first middle grade fantasy fiction. I read that absolutely wrong.
Middle grade means that it's for grades like 4th through 8th.
4th through 8th. Okay, good.
Yeah.
And
so
that's
it's not young adult, it's middle grade. So the themes are going to be more about friendship and resilience and things like that. They're not going to be so heavy on the romance side, although there is a really cute boy, of course, that she thinks is really cute and really cool, and he's a really good friend too. So.
Okay, good. I wanted to add that to the broadcast, because I think based upon, the ages of the characters will kind of give you that baseline of what type of readers is this book good to listen to in your case, and then read, which will be coming out around Christmas in 2022. So I want to congratulate you on that project. You have a lot of different things going on. And one soundbite that I wrote off to the side is take a break to reassess. And I want to ask you, the author, as well as the marketing company owner, your agency that you have, what type of impact, positive and negative, comes into light when you take a break to reassess? And is there a specific amount of time that you don't ever want to cross over? Is it 2 weeks? Is it a month? Is it a whole quarter out of a year? How long should reassessment last?
I think that's going to vary for the person. For me, I went through something with a very, very difficult client. And it threw me for a big loop. It triggered me in a lot of ways that because of the nature of the relationship, it was one of those things where it was almost like a bait and switch situation. And it really upset me. Part of it upset me because I felt like I was back in a situation that I didn't want to be in. I had a situation similar to this before, and I was like, how could I be so dumb? Really beating myself up. Part of it really just overwhelmed me because I was already feeling like a lot of pressure from the creative side that I wasn't really taking enough time for my creativity side, because this yoga and creativity is what fuels me. Mm-hmm. And so it's a priority for me to spend time on that. And I really started to feel like that was getting sucked away from me. And then just the verbal and just gaslighting abuse of this person. I've actually been struggling with an article because I typically don't write about things until I'm well past them. Mm-hmm. And I started an article about this, and I feel like it's a really important topic. And I really want to write about people that are just determined to misunderstand you, and how sometimes that they can just really just be kind of judgmental. Because I know I've been that type of person sometimes. I've been really determined to misunderstand someone. Or they could be a full-blown narcissist. And what do you do in that situation? But I've really struggled with getting it right because I'm still just in it. So I don't know when that article is going to come out, because I promised it like last week to my readers, and I'm like, I just can't. But for me, I took as long as I felt I needed to. Yeah. I'm in a fortunate position where my creative side of things, I don't like to disappoint my listeners or my readers, but it's also very personal, the things I write about. I write about some of like the traumatic events I had as a child. So I'm never going to apologize for taking time back to walk my dogs and do yoga if that's what I need to do to refuel. I put probably more pressure on myself, thinking I need to be busy, I need to do this, I need to do that. And of course, that's the trauma talking. I don't. Mm-hmm. And then as far as on the other side of things, marketing side, that the work has not really been something I had to really step back from as much. I offloaded that situation, thank God. And it was great how it all came about. It was actually, I would say I could say I offloaded it. Really, I was discarded by a narcissist, but it worked out really well because it put me in the position to accept a phenomenal deal. So I'm really happy about that. But I've still been able to service my clients and things like that. So it's not like that has had an impact. But I think that it's just really important for people to realize, whether you're creating or whatever it is you're doing, you have to stop and feel yourself. And if you get to a point where you need to really just say no to a lot of things, you need to do that. And you need to be unapologetic about it.
Oh my goodness, right? Unapologetic. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it just, I say this again and again for the viewers that follow and they watch along. I apologize for being a broken record, but at the same time, I don't, because so many conversations I get into with women who we're very like ages, it seems like, I'm listening to everything that they have to say. And a lot of it sometimes resonates the same way within me, where it's like, gosh, why does it take 30, 40 years to get it? Where's the playbook?
I do not understand why we go around like our first 30, 35, 40 years. So it's like hot triggered messes, but we do.
We do.
Don't we? It's just,
it seems like the wiring has almost like been crossed and then refused, the wrong wires are connected or something like that, in my opinion. And I'm just trying to give a visual. When I grew up, I had a stay-at-home mom, and the majority of women were stay-at-home moms, right? It was a one-income family. And now here we are where it's like a 3-income family, just to be able to try to make it. So you both have mom and dad. But the female role hasn't changed in most households. The female role is still cooking and cleaning and caring and trying to stay home when the kids are sick. But yet they've got a full plate over here in their work house. And then in their house, it's all demand. And like, these women are just, they're short fusing.
Yeah, I really, I'm so glad that I stayed home with my children. I would never have it any other way. I feel very strongly that that's precious time that you can't get back. And to backtrack, after my divorce, after several years, I did end up going into teaching for a few years because my children were very young, and I wanted to make sure that I was home after school as soon as possible and spending those time and those hours helping with homework. I was fortunate to teach in a couple of schools where my children could even come up. I taught middle school. One of my sons went to the middle school, and my younger two that were still in elementary school, they could come up at the end of the day and be in my classroom with me. And it was really cute because I had eighth graders. Yeah, I'm certifiably insane, y'all. And I remember my youngest, who's 15 now, he was in second grade, and they would be reading short stories. And one of the short stories was Harrison Bergeron. And my youngest had read it the night before because he's always been very advanced. His favorite book was Animal Farm at second grade. Wow. And so I was asked questions, doing critical thinking skills with the students and saying, why do you think the ballerina had so much more on than the other ballerinas? For those that don't know the story, Harrison Bergeron was all about trying to create this society of equals. But what it was doing is it was taking the lowest intelligence form of people and everyone that was in any way unique, awesome, beautiful, whatever, and pulling them down with weights and inconveniences. And my eighth graders, of course, looking at me, they were just like with a blank face. Like, and my youngest in the back of the room raises his hand, goes, Mommy, can I tell them why? And I'm like, oh gosh. Yes, go ahead. And then they were like, oh yeah, okay. But because it is hard, but it is, to go back to it, it is hard though. I mean, I had to make that choice, and it was definitely a financial choice because you don't make much as a teacher. But for me, the trade-off was huge because I was home and I was able to do the cooking and do all of that. And, you know, I work at, I'm really involved in my yoga studio, my yoga community. Mm-hmm. And so I'll help. I've just accepted a position to help just a couple of nights a week for like 3 hours at the front desk, checking people in. And then I'll go to yoga class afterwards and everything. So then I'm immediately like, I have 2018 and almost 16. Mm-hmm. And they all are at home because the 20-year-old is home for an internship and he's about to leave to go to California for another one, but they're all at home. And my immediate thing is like, oh my God, who's going to cook dinner? Uh-huh. Never mind, I have taught all these children how to cook. Yeah. Like they can really cook too. Like I'm talking salmon, pot roast, all. I'm just like, who's going to cook dinner on a weeknight? And my youngest was, of course, like, I'll just eat a sandwich. And I'm like, you can't eat a sandwich for dinner. Oh my gosh, where are the vegetables? She's like, Mom, calm down. Yeah. But it is so funny. We just revert back to that. And I think part of what, with my podcast and with my writing, is that I really want people to, and women particularly, to see that it's okay to have your own life and to have your own things going on. Mm-hmm. And to work on yourself and work on that healing. Because I know for me, it's been a lifelong journey. I've had to do a lot of healing from my childhood, from my divorce, from just everything that I've gone through. And I just want to give that hope and help to others too. And also give yourself a break. Yes, mm-hmm. Your almost 16-year-old can't eat a sandwich for dinner. He's not going to die. Yeah. I'm saying that more to myself than to everyone else.
No, exactly. And it's like the hardwired rules can bite you so many times because it seems like our brain wants to hang on to it and go, no, but. And it's like, no, there is no but. Because if that child can make a sandwich, that's what the child's going to eat because you have another obligation and that's okay. It doesn't like just toss everything out the window. The years and years of plates of broccoli still happened.
Exactly. And Brussels sprouts, yeah. I con my children into thinking were green French fries, and it worked. Yep. They love them. But you know, it's funny because they know how important yoga is to me. I've actually gone through yoga teacher training. I choose not to teach right now. I am body certified as well, but I choose not to teach right now because bandwidth wise, that's a class creation and a thing like that I don't have time to do and still do the other things I want to do. And not even that so much as just have some free time for my family too. But I couldn't pass up working a little bit at the front desk at my yoga studio because it's just my favorite place to be. So it'll be fun checking people in and, you know, getting to talk to all my fellow members. And then I get to slide into class at the end. So.
Well, thank you so much for that. I've written up here and I put it into the broadcast, minding your bandwidth. So, you know, one of the catchphrases that's running around social media is mind your focus, mind your focus, mind your focus. And I'm seeing a ton of that. I wish mind your bandwidth to be the next one that goes around because that's really powerful statement.
It really, really is. I feel like people will overextend themselves.
Yeah,
And sometimes
absolutely.
you just need to have time where you're just not doing anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, recharge, right? We power down everything else in our life. If our phone's not working right, we shut it off. Computer's not working right, we shut it off. You know, you don't want to pay extra in
Exactly.
electricity, you shut the lights off. Everything has to be shut off. So, Jen, I want to thank you so much for your time. This has been really enlightening. And congratulations on your work, especially with the newest
Thank
podcast to hit this Thursday, where you were chatting with a Ukrainian woman who is a refugee from only 2 weeks ago, and she made it to Italy. And now she's, my goodness, now she's providing housing and organizing food and all types of things for other Ukrainian refugee women. So thank you so very, very much. And, you know, to that point, it's not just women, but the reality is, which I think in the United States, as much as we may have the TV on for a moment, it's, I want to reflect on the reality of what they're going through, which you probably spoke to her this morning, and she, I'm sure she very powerfully relayed. So many women are alone. They are alone with their children, and the men and the older boys, their older sons, their uncles, their brothers, they are in Ukraine fighting right now. And these women are out in the world on their own. So I think that's just 1,000, you know, thank yous to her and to you for giving her a platform. So thank you so much, Jen.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right, everybody, go over to jencrosscreative.co. Take a look at her website. From her website, you're able to catch up with the podcast, which is a broadcast, just wrong word at the wrong time. So podcast, which is called A Wild and Precious Life. And I want to thank everybody for watching the show. Jen, we will see you very soon. You're a friend of the show. So you have a new book. You start up maybe some yoga videos or something like that you post on your website. Anything you have coming in the future. And I'm just spitballing there. So anything you have coming in the future, let me know. I'd love to have you on the show again.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. This was fantastic. And thank you for everyone listening.
Thank you very much. All right, everybody, as always, we are blessed. You are blessed. And I love you so very much.